making the most sport of recreation we pursue. As well as his clinical work, he also lectures at La Trobe University, spends time at both local cricket and football clubs, and assisting players to achieve and maintain good physical health. Vernon is well known to Tony and I, and has worked with both of us for a number of years, getting us fitter and stronger, and hence enabling us to walk without worry and fear. Really, Bernstein inspired us to tackle Mount Kilimanjaro last year, but Vernon was the one who helped with our training program. So it's with great pleasure I introduce Vernon and hand over the microphone.
Perfect.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words, Joan. Yes, I've been working with Joan and Tony for many, many years now, and it's been a pleasure to see them achieve that incredible feat last year. Pause and balance is something that I see a lot of. Well, unfortunately, I see a lot of people who fall over, come and see me, whether that's post, unfortunately, like a hip replacement that can happen after that, or their balance, they fear is a problem, which limits their functional capacity to do things in life. So I am quite passionate about force and balance, and I know our clinicians at the clinic are. We do multiple classes there, running force and balance, and the exercise class that Joan and Tony do, we do incorporate balance as well. So I'll have obviously give you guys time to ask me questions at the end, but I'll get through. What I wanted to get through was what makes up our balance. So, you know, what kind of things in our body actually make up our balance? How can you prevent falls and things you can do at home to help with that? As well as sort of what exercises and things you can do, and talk about walking poles and then how beneficial they actually are. So, yes.
I've got to put the cursor on the screen. There we go.
That's
Did you want to go to the second slide?
Yeah, second slide. Thanks.
And can I just ask the people in the Zoom audience, are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation? You'll have to unlock yourself. Robin, how about you? Unmute yourself and tell me whether you can.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
So just a brief chat about falls. It's the leading cause of injury amongst adults in Australia, and I think it's certainly something that's become more in vogue recently. I don't know if you read the Age article, which was a couple of months ago, that was talking about falls and balance and what things you can do at home to help with that. So certainly amongst us as clinicians, as physios, but in the allied health sphere, we're really trying to push the messaging around what you can do about balance and to prevent falls. As you're probably aware, if you do fall over, it can lead to broken bones, head injuries, long hospital stays, and why we clearly want to take people out of hospital or avoid going in is even if you spend a day in hospital, the level of deconditioning is quite rapid, even 2 days, 3 days. So I see a lot of people that even if they spend 2 days in hospital, they come out and they themselves say, look, I don't feel very fit, I don't feel very confident. And then whether physically they've actually regressed, I don't think so, but it's more that mental space that they're not feeling very confident. And you can imagine they're more likely to then fall over again. There's an increased risk. Once you're in hospital once, it can happen again in a short space of time. So clearly we have to avoid that. Falling, as I said there, can decrease your confidence to be active and mobile, making you less social and less happy. Clearly, you guys are a community. And from what Joan has been talking to me about what you guys do every week on your hikes, it's clearly a community. So if you're fearful, and I also imagine that terrains you walk aren't always the best and, you know, things like that. So you're obviously a very social group. So if you have any challenges with balance or you risk of falling, you're less likely to engage in this sort of activity. So that's obviously something we want to avoid. And at the bottom, there's a myth. Falling is just part of aging. I hear that a lot. Oh, I'm just getting older, so it's just expected to happen. I will push back strongly on that. It is a myth. You can work on your balance, much like you can work on your strength and flexibility. So A lot of my education with clients and / patients is I don't tell them, oh, it's just because you're getting older. There are certain things that do occur in the body as you get older, which you can't change. But just because you're getting older doesn't mean you're going to fall over. I think that's a myth. So I want to make that very clear from the start. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so yeah. So what makes up your balance? So think of your balance as your internal GPS system. It basically tells you where you are. So it's made up of 3 areas: your vestibular system, which is the system in your inner ears, your proprioceptors, which is a fancy term for there are receptors and signals in all your joints and muscles, particularly in the lower limb when we talk about balance, in your ankles, knee joint, and hip joint. They send signals all the time as to your brain to tell you where you are in space. So even me just walking around, moving around, my proprioceptors are firing like no tomorrow to try and tell my brain this is where I am. Otherwise, I'm going to fall over. And then your eyesight as well. All 3 areas must work in unison to maintain your balance. So as I said, with like the GPS analogy, it needs information from all 3 satellites to pinpoint your location. That's probably the best analogy I can give as to what makes up your balance. And I'll get into what each area is. Just some risk factors. So what can influence balance and what can make balance a problem? Environmental. So I'll get to that a little bit later, but loose rugs, poorly lit rooms, cluttered rooms, things that I think we can control, that's within our control to change. Medical reasons. So a lot of people that I see at the clinic actually have diabetes and they get numb in their foot. That's a complication as a result. So if you have less feeling in your foot, you're most likely, you don't know where you are. And the proprioceptors, the signals in your foot, are less active. So it's hard for your brain to know where you are. So that can be a risk factor. Previous leg injuries, for example, as well. Ear infections and vertigo. Anyone had vertigo? Yeah. How did you feel, if you don't mind sharing when you had it?
It was awful. I couldn't get up off the bed.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel dizzy, you probably feel like the room's spinning or you're spinning. That disrupts your vestibular system in your ear, which I'll get to. So ear infections are quite common or as a risk factor. Brain injuries, at the clinic, we see a fair few people through the NDIS scheme. So they typically will have brain injury strokes that can affect balance, definitely. And certain medications. So if you're on certain dosages of certain medications, it can just make you feel a bit dizzy, which we can obviously limit or can affect your balance. Behavioral, if you have too much to drink, which I'm sure some of you may have had in the past, you don't feel great. So that can affect your balance. So excess alcohol intake. If you're rushing, I think this is a big thing, rushing. So what I mean by rushing is if you're trying to do too many things at once. So what's a good example? If you're cooking and you're something on the stove, then you got to get something from the cupboard, then you come back and the microwave goes or something. If you don't do too many things at once and you're rushing, you're more likely to fall.
Getting out of bed.
Getting out of bed, yeah, and rushing, yeah. In a hurry, yeah. So things like that, definitely. Yeah, exactly. And then fatigue. If you're tired end of the day, usually it's a risk factor. Not to say if you have any of them, you're going to fall, but it is a risk factor. So your vestibular system. So let's go into each area now. So it's your inner ear balance. When you have vertigo or some people that they describe it as crystals in your ear. I won't get into the nitty-gritty, but it's basically when you move your head up and down, side to side, bending over, whatever, if your vestibular system was not working, and you would more likely fall over. And how that works is, let's say I'm picking up something from the ground, it's correcting, my inner ear balance system is correcting as I go. If it wasn't, I'm going to fall forwards. Okay, so if there's a disruption to your inner ear balance system, such as vertigo or ear infections, it affects your body's ability to navigate your head position. So as I said there, it detects head movement and spatial orientation, helps you keep upright and standing when you turn your head, bending over or react to sudden shifts. So if you're walking in public, walking and talking and something, you hear a sound, you turn your head. When you turn your head rapidly, that has to correct rapidly your inner ear balance system. If it didn't, you fall over. So, or you get dizzy or something would happen where you're going to fall over. So the inner ear balance system is very important. As I said at the bottom there, what happens to your balance when you have an ear infection, you have vertigo? As she said, you don't feel great, you feel dizzy, you feel nauseous, you feel like you're spinning or the room is spinning. That's affecting your inner ear balance system. Okay. Keep in mind that's just one area that's working. If that's disrupted, then the other areas such as your eyesight and your proprioceptors or your signals in your joints will have to work even harder to give information to the brain as to where you are. So obviously the ideal situation would be you have all three working well. Proprioceptors. So there are sensors in your ligaments, joints, and muscles. These are called proprioceptors. So they tell your limbs or tell your brain where your limbs are in space, even when your eyes are closed. So a good example I give is if I'm, say, standing on one leg, sort of like this, I know I don't know, you might not be able to see with the distance or whatnot, but my foot is correcting as I am already. So my foot and ankle are correcting. That's the signals in those joints in my foot and ankle are sending more information to my brain as to where I am. If it's disrupted, I'm more likely to sort of fall over. So a good test we do at the clinic is, can you stand on one leg? Now, on good days I can do it, on bad days I can't. It's very variable. But there are a lot of signals and sensors in the foot and ankle, for example. As soon as I close my eyes, which is a bit more taking away my eyesight, my foot and ankle works harder. I'm probably moving more, I assume. That's my signals working more to try and give me information as to where I am in space. So it's crucial to maintain posture. There are proprioceptors everywhere, in your shoulders, in your back, everywhere, where we focus on the lower limb because that's obviously where you are standing. So as I said at the bottom, what happens to your balance when you injure your knee or ankle? If you roll your ankle, it's very hard to balance because the signals aren't gone. The sensors aren't gone, they're just diminished. So a lot of the rehabs is try and reactivate them. It takes ages, yeah. Eyesight. So really your eyes provide constant feedback as to where you are in your surroundings. They help orientate yourself, measure depth perception in this room that's got dim light. It tells you have to work a little bit harder. Your eyesight naturally will work a bit harder to find things around your surroundings. It's see uneven terrain. So when you're going for your hikes, I assume some of you look down if it's a bit untoward, and that's just your body's natural way of saying, hey, where am I at? Where's my surroundings? And obviously obstacles. So what happens to your balance when your eyes are closed or your vision is impaired? So we have a couple of clients at the clinic that are actually blind, and so they've got no eyesight. So things around the vestibular system in the ear, the sensors and receptors in their joints have to work harder. We can train balance even if you're blinded, for example, but it is obviously harder. I see a lot of people fall over at nighttime, because it's dark. It's mimicking eyes are closed, sort of. So as I get into what we can do about it, or what kind of exercises or things we can do, what I'll say is when we train balance, we actually train balance where you're actually wobbly. So if I was to work on, say, Joan's balance and she's not actually wobbly, I'm not training anything. We're trying to get your body to adjust on the fly, on the go. So if it is wobbly, or if you do happen to stumble in real life, your body's able to correct itself. You're training that. And we can be clever as to how we train it. So I might say, if we want to bias the vestibular system, I might say, keep your feet together and turn your head side to side. You'll be surprised how difficult that could be if someone had a bit of an ear issue. If I want to bias eyesight, I might say, stand with your feet together and close your eyes and see what happens. They might be wobbling. If I want to bias the receptors in, say, my foot and ankle or knee, I might say, stand on a cushion with your feet together, or stand on a piece of foam. Already, I'm challenging your balance in different aspects. If I want to make it maximum height, for example, I might say, stand on one leg, eyes closed, turn your head on a piece of foam. So that's hard. Yeah. So that's something I do give. And now clearly, I'll get to a bit later, that has to be supervised to prevent a fall, but we can train that. So what can we do about it? So regular checks of your eyes. I think it's underestimated. I mean, obviously I've got glasses, so I get my check all the time. So definitely get regular checks of your eyes, because if there's anything that will impact your eyesight, best to get it checked, definitely. Regular checks of your ears. So when you go for your GP checkup every so often, just check, ask the doctor, anything wrong with my ear, anything wrong with my vestibular system. Or if you're noticing, I feel a bit dizzy when I turn my head, or when lying in bed on your side, you feel a bit dizzy. In normal life, you shouldn't feel dizzy. So if you do happen to lie on your side and get up, and you feel, oh, I feel a bit sort of like the room spinning, there might be something in your inner ear balance or your vestibular system that needs to be checked. That's slightly different to if you have low blood pressure, by the way. So people that get up from a lying to sitting position might feel like they're dizzy. That could also be low blood pressure. So if you do experience that, do check with your doctor, because it could be something with your ears as well. And obviously, from my perspective, strength training, massive. So lifting weights under supervision. So why strength training is important? So the example I give is if you happen to trip and you catch yourself, okay, great thing. That's an excellent thing. What's catching yourself is your muscles controlling or decelerating the body. The only way your muscles can decelerate the body is if it has enough strength to withstand. I weigh about 75 kilos to withstand 75 kilos of force that's moving forwards. So the only way you can train that is by actually lifting weights to generate that muscle strength. So lifting weights is crucial, and all the science and research around balance training is working the calf muscle at the back. It's a lot of calf raises on one leg, and quads, a lot of squats, sit to stand, lunges, anything around the quads, even a little bit of the glutes, which is the bottom, is crucial. And then, as Joan and Tony would know in their programs, it's very heavy on those sort of movements and those muscles, because it's critical. Strength training, what else I'm going to add there? The other thing around strength training, just bone density. Just on a side note, bone density is important as well. So I don't know if you guys check it yourself, or if you have been checked. I would highly recommend. If we talk about falling over at the start, I mentioned if you fall over, you may break a bone. Doesn't always happen, you may. Unfortunately, bone density isn't checked preventatively. It's often been told after you have a fall. Oh, just to add on to your issue, you've got osteopenia, osteoporosis. That happens after the fact, which I find bizarre. So preventative checks of your bone density through a DEXA scan, you can go to your doctor to they can do that. Or we would write a referral, but I think from a legal point of view, the doctor has to do it, or write a referral. But when you improve your muscle strength, it actually protects the bone. So it sort of cushions the bone from falling. So if you do fall, for example, if you've got enough strength in your muscle, it sort of like provides a cushion. So you're less likely to fracture a bone or break a bone. So 2 points there. Check your bone density if you haven't. And then the effect of strength training is that it helps cushion the bone. And then clearly balance training is important. Work on something that's a deficit. So the wobblier you are, the better. As I mentioned, like, standing on one leg, eyes closed, move your arm, do whatever you need. If you're wobbly, that's good. It's actually a good thing because you're training something. Your body has to adapt, clearly under supervision, because we can then, as a clinician, we can progress. If you're not wobbly, where often people call me a sadist with making them work too hard, but if you're not wobbly, I will make it so that you are wobbly. Because that's the only way you can actually correct something. So balance training is important. And as I go back to the start, it's a myth. Just because you're older doesn't mean you should be falling and having balance issues. You should be able to work on that. What about at home? So just going back to the environmental factors, don't know if you reflect on what you have at home at the moment. Install grab rails if you need. Declutter the home, massive. Don't have loose cords around. Or even loose sheets, bedding. If it's just sticking out, you don't know. If you're in the morning, you get up and you're rushing, whoop, you tripped over, yeah? So just clearing the hallways, for example. Improve lighting of the rooms. Install non-slip mats. Might be a good one out of the shower. You're typically wet, so you might slip forwards. non-slip mats might be useful. Shower chairs if you need, and keep, as I say, keep electrical cords tucked away from walkways. I see too many people fall over cables and bed sheets, and it's so easily preventable. These are some ideas. These aren't the only ideas, but these are the things I hear a lot of. So I thought I'd put it on there. Okay, walking poles. So do most of you use walking poles? Is that a requirement? Joe?
No, it's personal, yeah.
Personal?
Yep.
What makes you want to use walking poles, Joe?
Or they give me a confidence.
Who else uses walking poles? Why do you use walking poles? Confidence as well?
Yeah,
Or anyone? Yeah. Same thing.
also because you can put some of the weight through your arms
Mm,
and it strengthens your arms if you would use them properly,
Yeah.
as well as your legs, yeah.
perfect. Yeah, there's good research around that. Good, good. So, walking poles. What are the benefits? Provide stability for uneven terrain. It gives you more points of contact on the ground. When you're walking, it's just 2 feet. If you can add an extra couple of legs onto the ground, it's better, right? Now, there's technique, which I'll get one of you guys to demonstrate what you do and I can adjust, but there's still technique to it. If I look at at the bottom here on the, even the people on Zoom, you can see at the bottom, there's some articles. I think Joan will send the recording of the PowerPoint out to everyone.
Chris, you put it on the, you put this recording up on the club website, don't you?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. We'll ask him to put that.
So there are 2 articles here that if you want to read, if you're scientific, they will sort of go through the benefits of it. And there's on the right hand side, the trekking pole research that basically has 5 or 6 articles that surmise everything. So there is good evidence around use of walking poles. So yeah, as I said, increased stability. A quote from one of the articles: when carrying an large external load, so being like a backpack, the use of trekking poles may be beneficial, resulting in decreased lower extremity muscle activity. So it actually takes pressure off your legs and increased balance and stability because you've got an extra couple of legs. Say, reduce joint impact. So research shows poles reduce impact loads on your legs, so knee joint, hip joint, ankle joint, by 5 to 8 kilograms. Fair bit. Per step, so it's quite important. A significant reduction was observed, so a quote again, for the sagittal plane moment. So sagittal plane moment is when I'm taking a step forward, the amount of force going through my knee in sort of the front of the knee. How much force is going through the front of the knee in summation. In the lower extremity with pole use, so there was a significant reduction. It takes pressure off your knee joint. Yeah. And then increased endurance. If, as you said, if you use your arms, it does use your arms a bit as well. If you don't use a walking pole, it was 35% of total body work. If I was to put a number on how much work your body's doing, 35% of it is doing work without walking poles. Jumps to 90% with the use of walking poles. Now, while that's important, you get the benefits of a bit of arm strength, you get a bit of better endurance, you get a whole body workout. So there is some benefits definitely for using the walking poles in that aspect. How many poles? 2 is best. Otherwise you'd be uneven. And then those are some articles there. There are some.
I've been fiddling around the place, so I've got to click on the screen first, and then you've got control.
That's right. What are some of the drawbacks though? So things to think about, just to think about. Poor technique can increase your risk of injury. You might sort of overstride and hurt your back. You might put more pressure on your knee if you're not doing it correctly. So uphill, this is what my understanding, so you can correct me for those who use the pole, but going uphill, you shorten the poles / shorten the stride to maintain more upright. Is that what you typically?
Shorten poles, yes.
Yeah, shorten the poles, yeah. And then downhill, you lengthen the poles. That's
Yep.
correct? Yeah, perfect. So to reduce the impact on the necks, yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
With some poles, you have an actual long hang, so you don't have to change.
Oh, okay.
So you can move your hands up and down on the pole.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah. Yeah. This is the one that Joan has got, one that I typically see. That one I have not aware of, but if it works, as long as I think that like the general rule of thumb, if you shorten it on the way up and lengthen it on the way down. Number 2 point, which is overestimating ability. If you use your walking pole and you think you can walk really hard terrain, it's not always the case. You still got to work within your tolerable, what you can cope. You don't, being overconfident in attempting risky terrain if you're using poles. So yes, the poles are going to provide pretty good stability or good stability. Doesn't mean you try the hardest hike out and you sort of train for that and still be confident to do it. Falling. So what I mean by falling is if the pole makes contact with an uneven piece of ground and it's sort of you lose that connection point, that's when you can be a bit unstable. And then adding complexity. What I mean by that is you got to think about, I'm carrying the backpack, I'm thinking about where I'm walking, then I've got to think about where the poles are. That's if I talk about rushing, they could be doing too many things at once. So just something to keep an eye out on. So it adds additional equipment and responsibility for a likely already difficult hike. So just think about that. And then at the bottom there, you can see another couple of articles. Just and more resources if you need to have a read about it. So I think that's all I had. Yeah, so where to from here? So hopefully that was helpful around what makes up balance. What we're offering the clinic for balance, if you are concerned, is a free balance assessment if you would like. I've got some flyers and you put your name down there if you'd like. So running that at the clinic, so you can call us up. Book in with your doctor if you haven't already. If you need to check something with your eyesight or your ears or your dizziness, check in with the doctor. And make those changes at home if you haven't already with the cords and the bed sheets and things like that. So I will now leave it for the floor. Any questions?
Did you give us an idea of some balance exercises you can do at home?
Yes.
Without supervision?
Without supervision. Yeah. So without supervision, you would still need you would still need something to hold on to. So a wall or chair, right? So if I was to go, so let's work backwards. The assessments that I typically do with the clinic, how long can you stand on one leg? It's about 30 seconds is what we want. Okay, so if that's difficult, you can just train that. So stand on one leg. If that's hard, clearly next to a wall or chair, if you feel really off balance, just turn your head side to side. That works your balance or your receptors in your foot and ankle and your vestibular, your inner ear balance system. You can close your eyes and just hold it. If that's too hard, our regression is standing heel toe. So like that. And you can do the same thing, close your eyes, you could turn your head. So I'm a bit wobbly already. So those are basically 2 exercises / testing to see how good you are. I often say brush your teeth on one leg. Or if you're very good, chopping something on one leg, or if you're waiting for something to cook, stand on one leg. So I think the more you do it, the better. If standing on one leg is too easy, get a cushion. It's amazing how much that changes things. Changes things rapidly. So you can do that.
Is it better to be barefoot or doesn't matter?
Good point. Always better to be barefoot or no shoes. And the way that I explain that, as I said at the start, when my foot was on one leg, it's moving around. The shoe provides a sort of a barrier. So if I'm moving around, if I get to say the instep, the shoe will stop me from going any further. So have I actually trained my foot to correct throughout its full range of motion? Probably not. The shoe is providing a barrier. If you take the shoe off, you're more likely to get a true sense of how much your foot is wobbling. So shoes off is better. Another exercise could be walking just on a tightrope. Quite a good one. If you're game enough, you walk eyes closed. You might veer from the wall, but see how you go. Walking backwards. I mean, I've had someone tell me, is that a good exercise? Look, you can do it. Is it functional enough in life? When are you walking backwards? Really? So it's not something I prioritize highly, but it can be done if you want to just train something, yeah. But it's some simple exercise. Any other questions? Yeah.
I heard somewhere that the older you are, the shorter you can stand on one leg with your eyes closed. Can you train to stand longer, or is that just a fact of life?
They say that as you get older, the relative normal value, or for how long is considered normal, shortens. So let's say it's mid-20s to early 30, it's about a minute, 30 seconds, 45 seconds to a minute is where you should be able to stand one leg unimpeded. As you get older, yes, the normal values get less. So if you can say stand, I think it's around, I have to double check this, but I think it's around 50 years old and above. If you can get to 30 seconds, that's considered normal. If you get less than that, then yes, work towards 30. If you can hit 30, then go for more. I think just because you hit the norm doesn't mean that's what you should be doing. So you
Well, I
can
heard
push
that,
it out.
if your eyes are clouded, people at 60 can't reach 10 seconds.
That depends. Yeah. There was an article, I think, there was someone who said that, yeah, the well-known person. Yeah, I suppose it's always hard, yes. Your question, can you get it more? Yeah.
Can you train? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, can.
totally. Yeah, totally. It's balance is a malleable thing. You can challenge it, you can work on it. Yeah, definitely. Any other questions?
Do you do any training for how to fall as well, or?
Like if you do for what you do.
Yes.
Yeah. My advice on that is when you're falling, it's very hard to have a controlled fall. I know some people say I was able to, unless you're near a wall, you might be able to slowly come down using the wall. My advice on it is if you can fall sideways, do that. Because what do you think will happen if someone falls forward?
Right,
Yeah. Yeah, and concussion probably. Also, when you fall on your side, you've got a meatier part of your body being your butt. That will then cushion a little bit better. So, do I train how to fall over? Not necessarily. What I do though, is I get them to the point where they're about to fall. And then I'm not stopping them from falling, but I get them to try and control it. So, if I get them to balance and they're actually about to tip over, I don't necessarily catch them unless clearly I'll have to judge how much they're going to go. But if they're able to correct, then I'll let them do that and then I'll try it again. So I get to the point where they're about to fall and see if their body can correct, rather than saying, okay, you're going to fall over and see what you do. That makes sense. But my advice would be like fall on your side. When it happens, you just don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's where if you can mitigate, better strength, better, stronger bones, then if you do happen to fall, the risk of injury is less. But I don't necessarily train how to fall. It could be the way we could do that is we have like a big mat and you're falling onto a mat. Like we could do that. It's something I might actually think about. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Could you show us how we should be using the poles, whether it should be higher or lower or?
Good point. Who uses poles? Joe, do you want to show them how you use your poles? Then I'll correct.
Correct, you can't. Go.
No, I don't know how I use my pole.
It's just habit now, isn't it?
I mean, it's very high.
No, but I heard
Yeah.
that you have to have your arms at right angles so that, your arms are from there and that's where you have to have the pole.
They're probably
Is that correct?
they're probably a bit low. So perhaps on a flat I would have them up to about there.
Mm.
And no, when I'm walking, sometimes I have the two of them this way, but then sometimes, I mean, you're walking along and you're kind of there. I'm not sure which is.
So I like to think of using walking poles like using crutches. So obviously if the poles are up here, that's just uncomfortable regardless, right? So and if it's down here, you're being it's too low. So you're right, it should be around 90 degrees, give or take a few extra degrees here and there. Where it should complement your walking. So if you take, say, a step with your left foot, your right foot, it's almost like left foot, right pole.
Oh, yeah, opposite.
It's just complementing it. And it feels natural. Yeah. You could do two together. And so the benefit of that could be when you take a step with my left foot, for example, I put it down and it gives me that propulsion using your arm. You could do that. Me personally, naturally would be just be yeah.
The two together are helpful when you're going up steps.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, up step.
Steps, you take it,
Yeah.
put one down.
So up steps, you would actually do. This is a little bit more about how to use a crutch as well. Very similar. When you get up a step, you have your foot first, then you use the poles. On the way down, use the poles first. But to be honest, if whatever technique's right for you and you feel most comfortable is the best one. To be honest, as soon as I change your natural walking pattern, then I'm asking for trouble because I've then got to negate years and years and years of habituation. So I wouldn't, but those are two of the basic ways to do it. So either left foot, right pole, complements or together. Any other questions? No,
Just you talk about the calf muscles. Have you got some exercises?
yeah. So if you hold on to a chair, I'll do this. Put side on so the group can see that as well. You can calf raises isn't necessarily a balance exercise in its entirety, so you can do it without holding on. It will probably work balance as well as calf strength. But if you're just focusing on calf strength and you're trying to limit any external factors, you hold on and you just come up and down. Okay. One leg is always harder. If you want to make that even harder, you grab a step, which I might not have here, but that's all right. But if you basically grab a step so that your heel comes further down. So at the moment, I'm getting stopped because of the ground. If we have a step, the step will go here and my heel comes down. So that actually stretches the calf muscle more, which means it has to work harder to get up. That improves more strength. Yeah. If that's easy, grab some weights, put a backpack on. You have your backpack, do the same thing. Add some load. Yeah. Your calf muscle working all the time because you're standing up and you're walking. But those are some easy things to work. Anything else?
I wonder, do you think something like Taekwondo is good for balance?
Taekwondo or Tai Chi?
Tai Chi, I mean.
Taekwondo. Tai Chi is very good. Yeah, good. There's good evidence around Tai Chi. There's two types of balance, which I probably didn't add into there. There's static balance and dynamic balance. Static balance is balancing in a single motion, so standing on one leg. You're statically standing. Dynamic balance is like sort of walking heel toe or walking heel toe with a head turn. Dynamic balance is more functional, I would say. So Tai Chi is very good to improve just general strength and conditioning and endurance because they get you in really nice position where you have to stand on one leg in its entirety. That's working static balance. And then you would need something for dynamic balance. You know, can you step forward on a piece of foam and reach for something and come back without falling over? Or can you step sideways and grab something and come back? Like different ideas like that. But yeah, Tai Chi is great. Good evidence for Tai Chi. Cool.
What about dancing? I've heard dance is supposed to help balance.
Dancing. I'm a dancer myself. Probably Joe may have told the group. I'm not sure yet. So I do salsa dancing. So I enjoy dancing. It's good for dynamic. Yeah, I guess it depends what type.
Well, the one that I read about was ballroom dancing, which
yeah.
I don't do. But
The tango.
I guess with ballroom dancing, there's sort of more or less set steps, as there is for any form of dancing. They're relatively slow, I suppose.
Well, that's still working dynamic balance because you have to follow the steps and your body still has to adapt. You might need to do a turn, which then works the linear balance system.
Yeah.
And then you also have to think about the music and the rhythm. So you've already got 4 different stimuli to think about. So we talk about training rushing. We need to rush into a step and you can do it well. That's training that aspect. So it depends what type of dancing. If you're doing if you're staying stationary and sort of dance, not great for balance. But if you're moving around and turning and whatever, then that's good. Yeah. Probably not a set answer, but I think it has benefit, yeah. Oh,
I haven't done it, but I've heard that Nordic walking is with poles and things, and I don't know how it's done. I just wondering whether you've done these thoughts.
Good, yeah, it's good for fitness, yeah. Nordic walking is something that's still, some of the research articles, they talk about it, and one of the articles, so definitely have a read on it. My Nordic walking is good for its endurance, a bit more, it sort of works a bit harder. Has good evidence for cardiovascular fitness, so lung capacity and things like that. It's just a different type of walking, yeah. So it's a different type of training, so I think it has its benefits, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we might call it quits there. But before we head off for the lovely afternoon, or not afternoon, evening snacks there, supper. On behalf of all of you, I'd like to thank you, Vernon. That was most engaging. I could just tell from people's nodding and the questions at the end that you've really engaged us very much. And I must admit, a couple of those thoughts there, those three things about the balance, the vertigo, whatever they were.
Yeah.
I thought, oh gee, I thought it was just the ear. I never really understood that. So
Yeah. Great.
I certainly learned a lot. And as I said, I could tell from your reaction that you're very excited. Before you go, oh wow.
Appreciate more. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy it.
Thank you so much. I'll be hanging around.
Yeah.
More questions.